It makes the day 3 of the People's Resets. Thank you, everybody who's tuned in at home. Welcome back. This is day 3. We are focused today on parallel networks. We're going to talk all about how to build new systems outside of the so-called mainstream systems. I don't even like calling them mainstream because I feel like that gives them too much credit. You guys know what I mean? It's like these false systems that have been propped up and put before us our entire lives and told, this is normal. This is what you're supposed to join and be a part of. It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel honest. Yeah, the legacy system. That's great. Thank you, brother. So yeah, thank you to everybody at home. We really appreciate you being here with us today. Hopefully you've been enjoying the talks. Everything from day 1 and day 2 is already available on the People's Reset Odyssey channel, which you can find at our website. So both part 1 and part 2 of Liberate Your Mind, Body, and Soul and Permaculture and Food Independence are available already. So if you missed it, go back and check it out. We really hope you guys will do so. Lots of fun moments there. And today's just going to be another beautiful day. We have several presentations before lunch. After lunch, we're going to have an international independent media panel, which I do want to mention. My good friend, Ryan Christian, who was with the Last American Vagabond, he was supposed to be here to be participating. He had an unfortunate death in the family, so he needed to be home to be with his family. So he sends his love, and he might be sending us a special video message later today. We'll see if we get that from him. But he sends his apologies and his love, and he hopes to be here next year. And anybody who came to see him, he would love to connect with you later. So yeah, John's going to talk in a moment about what today's theme is all about. I did want to mention we have one lost and found item. That's yours? Awesome. Perfect. Great start to the day. Yeah, I don't know how you would describe that either. Okay, but lovely. Is anybody else missing anything? If you do miss anything, go check at the registration table. Eventually it makes its way to me and we'll make sure you get all your stuff. The cool thing about our community, so far 2 people have lost bags that they were like, there's a lot of money in it, and they got it back. You know, our community is pretty good at making sure things get back to the people they belong to, and we're really grateful for that. So yeah, without further ado, please make some noise for my brother John Bush as he breaks down today's theme on agorism and parallel networks.
All right, how's everybody doing? Give it up for Derek Bros. Yeah. Shout out to the team and everybody for making this event possible. There's so much work, time, energy, sweat, maybe a little blood, a little sangre that goes into putting these events on. And before I introduce the theme for today, I just wanted to encourage folks, especially those that are watching online, to contribute, because I can guarantee that you're getting tons of value out of this event, and the stream is completely free. A lot of these events, you got to get like the VIP pass to get the replays and everything, but the People's Reset really is a selfless movement that's oriented towards lifting everyone up. It's not about making money. It's not about some kind of business enterprise. It's all about the community. That being said, it does take money and a whole lot of effort and time. Okay, so Derek was saying that they're on the verge of breaking even. They invested $40,000 into this event. How about that? That's a lot of money, and for someone to put that up, there's risk that comes along with that if things don't pan out. So I want to encourage, let's just not return that money. Let's go above and beyond to show the gratitude and the value that we all experience in this event by donating. thegreaterreset.org/donate, thegreaterreset.org/donate. Today is all about agorism and counter-economics. And a huge piece of that is currency. And we're going to be talking about alternative currency. It's going to be mixed in the tech day as well. And when you think about the word currency, it sounds a lot like current, right? Which is a flow of energy. And so what agorism is all about, which essentially stands for revolutionary market anarchism. It's the idea that instead of competing within the system, we should compete with the system. But we get to express our value through money, through contribution, through where we point our attention. And so I just want to encourage people to express that value, to show some love to this event so it can continue to go. And for the folks that are putting up all the effort and the risk, so they can actually get something in return as well, on top of the massive impact that everybody's having. So thegreaterreset.org/donate, thegreaterreset.org/donate. So yeah, today's all about agorism and parallel networks. And so I just really want to encourage people to think practically how we can build parallel networks in our area and how we can take steps in order to exit the legacy financial institutions that are all about control and surveillance and build the counter economy. All right, so agorism was a term, a strategy that was coined by Samuel Edward Konkin III. Are you guys all familiar with agorism? Anybody not? Like, what the heck's this guy talking about? What a weird word. So the root of the word is agora, which is a Greek word for open air market. And it's all about trading, right? But this guy, Samuel Edward Konkin III, he was a libertarian. Libertarians believe in self-ownership. They believe in non-aggression and free markets, just trading amongst ourselves voluntarily. So this guy, Samuel Edward Konkin, he was part of the Libertarian Party, which is all about politics and reforming government and spreading the message through politics. But he started to get disillusioned. And it was a similar story to myself. I did politics for a decade and protesting and yelling at government buildings. I don't know what it is about freedom people. They just love to yell at government buildings like it's going to change the world. But he got disillusioned. I got disillusioned with politics. And that's actually when I learned about and discovered this agorist philosophy. And essentially, it's all about engaging in counter-economic activity. Okay, so what is the counter economy? Well, we have the establishment economy, LLCs, paying taxes, asking for permission, using Venmo, sending checking account, whatever it may be. That's the establishment economy. Total surveillance. It's only getting more controlled, and people are going to be getting shut out of the economy for sharing ideas like we do. And then we have the counter economy, which is everything counter to that. In fact, Samuel Edward Konkin said, counter economics is any action that evades or defies the state. So by being at this conference here, you guys are counter economists as well, right? And so today is all about building these parallel networks, opting out of the system. And before we move on, I want to share a quick practical tip for you. This is something that I teach my students and clients with Live Free Academy. And so the idea is we want to ensure that we are as independent from the beast system as possible. But a lot of people have, an IRA, a retirement account, a mortgage, whatever it may be. And so we're not saying to completely abandon that, right? Because a lot of counter economics has to do with mitigating risk and taking a risk assessment. Ultimately, I believe that we need to be taking more risks and putting more skin in the game, because thankfully we live at a time where we can share ideas like this without the Stasi kicking the door down and putting us in a gulag. Not everyone alive at this time in the present moment has that, I was going to say privilege, but that's a right to be able to express ourselves. And so we need to take advantage of it, because if we don't, the future generations aren't going to have the ability to share these ideas. In fact, in China, they're like editing out Tiananmen Square from history, and that fire of freedom is slowly but surely dying out. So a great activity that we can have to keep that fire alive and to prepare the future generations to be able to trade outside the system is to do what we can to build these networks. And so I want to encourage everyone to take stock of your monthly budget, for example. So let's say somebody spends $5,000, $10,000 a month in order to live, buying food, clothes, whatever it may be. Identify anything in your normal expenses that could be purchased from a freedom person, or purchased using cryptocurrency, or purchased under the table, or bartered, or grown on your own. And this is how we can slowly but surely starve the beast, because this is how we ought to be living anyway. This is a great strategy to set up future generations to inherit these networks. But I was doing a freestyle the other day and was asking people, what should I rap about, right? And somebody was like, free Palestine. I tell you what, one thing that's motivated me more than anything to build the counter economy is to limit my tax dollars and my hard-earned work going to fund a literal genocide that's taking place right now. And that's not the only aggressive action that governments take. It's happening all over the place. We're literally funding foreign aggression and funding our own oppression. And the way to overcome that is through counter economics and putting some skin in the game and being proactive about building the world that we all desire. So I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your contribution to this incredible movement that we're all a part of. And let's go ahead and bring Derek back up to introduce the next speaker. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Does that make a little more sense to you guys? And I want to mention this as well. Even if nothing about that specific philosophy strategy that both John and myself have really embraced, I tend to call Agorism, my interpretation of it, exit and build. So if you guys have heard that phrase or heard me talk about that, that's where it comes from. But even if you don't really ascribe to that, the important thing that we're mentioning here is that we believe the solutions are outside of the system. We don't think politics is going to save things, even though many people, unfortunately, in the broader freedom movement have been infected with this Trump-hopium syndrome, or some other politician. The answers are not going to be found in politics. They're also not going to be found through violence, and they're definitely not going to be found by being apathetic and just giving up. And, like I said the other day, we have our ancestors with us, and we have the future generations counting on us. So we know that apathy is not the answer. We know that violence has been tried, and we know that politics has been tried. So instead, we believe the answer is for us to exit from those systems and to build new ones. And so that's what most of our speakers today are going to be focused on, how to build new systems in different areas. So our first speakers are going to be talking about that very thing and how they interpret that and how they do that. So they are here from Canada, came all the way down here to join us. This is their first time speaking here, first time attending, and I'm really excited to share their information with you. Please give a warm welcome to Gila Russ Woodland and Michael Frazier to the stage. Come on down.
Hola, Morelia.
Hola.
So nice to be here, guys. Thank you, Derek and Miriam, John and Rebecca, all the people behind the scenes that make this beautiful conference available, smooth up and running. So yes, we are from Canada, and we just remembered 3 years ago the truckers movement. Let's give a shout out to the truckers. Yeah, freedom convoy.
Like us, people taking action, walking in their own footsteps, doing what's best for their community. And we're grateful to be here with the greater reset, the people's reset, to be able to be with you, taking your footsteps too. Thank you for having us.
It's actually a dream come true. We've been following the Greater Reset and since its inception. And last year we were watching together and we looked at each other and like, wait a minute. We can contribute. We can talk about exit and build and what we do with the new education system, the New Earth Network. So a little bit about ourselves. My name is Hila. I'm a mother. I'm an educator. I'm an artist. I'm a group facilitator. I love working with children of all ages. I love working with adults. And I've been working in the public system, in private system, in community centers, in different projects, summer camps, speaking in some conferences in the US and in Turkey about peace education. And at some point in my life, I noticed that being in the system doesn't feel right for me. It wasn't aligning anymore with my true values. And as I was on my spiritual journey, recognizing who I truly am and who children truly are, it was pretty clear to me that I have to quit, that I have to leave. And I started my own educational business. It's called In Wonderland. And I run after-school programs, learning pods, and summer camps and nature education. And this is what we're about, creating the parallel education. I don't want to call it a system. It's more so a network. So we are the New Earth Network. And what I'd like to say is that promoting expression from the heart and supporting learning experiences is my passion.
Beautiful. And I'm Michael Fraser. And when everything started to happen, I saw the schools as being convenient for a lot of people to put their kids in. And in thinking about my own son and the children in my family, knowing that some people might not make the decision to pull their kids out of school and start homeschooling, I felt it was really important that we start building something that was an obvious choice, because most people are consumed by their lives and not really thinking they have time, energy, or space or capacity to be able to build something different. So I knew that I needed to start talking to parents, families, and that's how I got involved. I've always been an action taker in my life. Lifelong musician. I've always had to fend for myself and walk my own path. And being a teacher and working with children with music education, part of my path as well. And meeting Hila on the process of yelling at government buildings and realizing that that just wasn't the way, that wasn't how it was going to be. It almost felt like the way I used to go to festivals and music conferences, concerts to meet the artist. And so I was meeting Hila, who had these beautiful words from the heart to say, and that's how we came together.
Thank you. So we want to try something here before we start. You start.
Well, so out of everybody, just a show of hands, how many people here in their education growing up felt supported, like their excellence was nurtured? Okay,
right.
a few people. What about people who felt like school was challenging, like it was really grinding to be in school? A lot more people. And what about people who had an okay experience? It was like, hey, I went to school.
Cruising.
It was just fine. It was
cruising.
okay. Okay.
All right. So just a little testing the water so we get a feel of what our sense when we graduate the education system. So another little poll that we want to do is, please raise your hand and share with us, answering the question, what did not work for you in your schooling experiences in one sentence? So raise your hand and I'll just kind of popcorn style. Yes.
So having to sit still all day and losing a connection with your body.
Okay.
Yeah. Losing a connection with your body and that dissociation coming into adulthood.
Homogenization. You're treated like everybody else, and there's no difference between individuals.
Tell me where to go.
All right. Hand over here.
What I didn't like is that you couldn't question anything. You have to take it. What is this? Why? Whatever. Is it what it is? And shut up.
What about some things that people found that did work for them in school? Do we have any ideas of what worked? Right here.
Well, I chose my high school. It was Derbejan, different from the tradition for Catholic school. So I changed the tradition with my family, and everybody came to this new school. And what is been very good for me since then is that they had these subjects on thinking.
Critical thinking.
To be able to think.
Thinking and verbal, like all the high school, this creativity, solving problems, thinking out of the box, entrepreneurship, and even leadership. And I was part of this program, so all of this was like very good for me.
Thank you.
Let's take one more.
Yeah, we'll take one more of what worked in school for you. Right here, this gentleman.
Thank you. What I found helpful for me was actually the structure. It gave me a curriculum to like learn from and expose me to different areas of academia and just help expand my mind. Whereas I feel like if I was raised by my parents, I might not have gotten all of that.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's interesting. So that gives a bit of an information of things that didn't work, things that did work, and nothing is black and white, right? We have the gray zone too. And what I'd like to say is that education is super important. And it is known for some leaders to say, give me the youth and we'll control the nation. So children are precious and they will form the future generation. So we know that what's happening in the school systems right now, it's kind of shifting from education to indoctrination. And so there's some things, we live in a peculiar times where we can see so many inversions. So we're just going to go over a few.
So as in our school system, just like the way that we're seeing in society, everything is upside down. We grow up learning it takes a village to raise a child, but we put one teacher with 30 students. I had a conversation on the bus with a teacher, and she looked at me in disbelief. It was like she knew this, but she couldn't even articulate it as clearly as how she has to care for all these children, and it's almost like they're raising her.
And we know that teachers are doing their best, and teachers are wonderful. But again, it's the system, it's the current system that was designed way back, and the aim, the goal was to create good citizens that will obey and will be good workers and do the 9-to-5 enslavement with no questions asked. So they'll be part of the machine.
What we know is when children are left to their own devices, they're curious, they're explorative, they're creative. They come up with solutions within their play to the things they want to explore. But in school, their excellence and their genius is numbed down. It's almost like sitting still is taking away that ability to be creative with their entire sensory body.
In fact, NASA had a survey and they wanted to test the level of genius in children throughout their education. So they started in kindergarten and they measured something like 93% genius. So creativity, problem solving, innovation, clear communication. And then shockingly, at the end of our schooling years, our genius is being 30 to 40%, I think, numbed down. So that says a lot about what we do to our children and how we shut down their way of expressing themselves, the way of they can critically think, be innovators and co-creators. Let's move to the next one.
In schools, it's as if the thoughts that we're giving children are prescribed. You need to know the answer. The answer is given to you. And so you walk in your life in this imprisoned mind where you have to know the answer to everything. But the reality is that what we want is our children to be freely expressing themselves, and we want them to have critical thinking skills so that they can be innovative, so they can go beyond what the answer that they were told is.
And you know, structure is important, like you pointed out. We're not dismissing structure, but we want to create new structures, structures that will be more project-based, they'll be more child-led, they'll be more of emergent curriculum, and that the whole concept of education will be community-based and not government-led.
So that is the question. How are we going to be creating an alternative way of being that promotes freedom, discovery, and expression for our children?
So we co-founded the New Earth Network. Please check us out, newearthnetwork.ca. And well, we met as we were trying to create changes within the Vancouver School Board. And at some point during the pandemic, they suggested and actually said clearly in a letter to all the parents in Vancouver School District that children 12 and up can get an experimental shot and there's no need for parental consent. And we thought this is outrageous. We as parents, we have the rights over our children's body and we can make a choice and we want to have the ability to make a choice. And we were being a delegate at one of their committee meeting. We were speaking, we were trying to email and to no avail. They didn't listen to us. And it was sad to see that they actually put this shot in the scheduled vaccines in Vancouver. It's still there today. And parents in Canada, I don't know other countries, but some of our fundamental rights were taken away from us. So we decided, let's opt for exit and build. Let's create the new Earth system, new educations, and we call it learning pods. So we didn't invent the concept of learning pods. It is an existing concept.
It's emerging organically. A lot of these ideas I feel that we're sharing are coming through our consciousness when we're tuned in. And so this is one of these concepts that we were tuned in right as we're seeing people across the world also having similar feelings about the direction education is going in.
Yeah, and we know that throughout the years, many parents were choosing homeschooling and even unschooling. So that's not a new phenomena. But after 2020, in Canada, the amount of families that chose homeschooling went like more than 100%. It doubled itself. So we realized that people want to start something new, but we also heard voices from some events that we organized that people are overwhelmed. They don't know what to do. They have jobs, they have commitment. They can't stay at home with their children all day. And some parents feel insecure. We're not teacher. How do we do that? And so on and so on. So we worked a lot with parents to unschool their own mind and to help them get to the understanding that they can reclaim their power, and that you don't need to be a teacher in order to be with your children and set example and educate them and have an input on their learning experiences. So we created a course. We had an online course. We recorded it. And now it's an evergreen course on our website, and it's by donation because we want it to be available to everybody.
So using the experience that Gila has from running programs that are exactly like the learning pods we're encouraging people to design, we did a course where I interviewed Gila and we shared that with people on a live forum, and then that course, like Gila was saying, is evergreen, so everybody can tune into it. And the way I see this course is that it's a bridge. It's a bridge between what we know the world that we're living in to be into the world that we're coming into, that we desire to create.
Yeah, we are creators. We are powerful being, and never forget that. So our course have 4 modules. The first module teaches people what is a learning pod. So basically, it's very simple. Learning pod is a group of families that do homeschooling, and they come together and create the structure that will work for them wherever they live, with respect to their lifestyle and job commitment. So let's say if you have between 5 to 10 families, and let's say one parent volunteers once or twice a month, you already have more time for yourself as a provider for your family, but you can also have more time with a group of children and lead that learning pod. So our course is called Learning Pods Leaders Training. So what is a learning pod? How to structure it, create your schedule, how to approach school year planning. That's the first module. Our second module speaks to core values and educational philosophy. So we know what we don't want. So how do we know what we do want? So we walk people through a method and a way to understand their core values, what's important to them, what do they want their children to go through in their learning experiences, and how they can be part of it, and what educational philosophy can work for them. Some people really love the Waldorf, so they can be Waldorf inspired. Some people love more nature education component in their curriculum. Some people want to engage more physical activities and sports. Some people want to have a variety of everything. You can choose. That's the beauty of having your own learning pod. You decide, you choose, you collaborate with other families and create what it is that you want to see for your children.
And just like there's different aspects that worked for us in school that didn't work for someone else, we get to create something that is a reflection of the community that we're living in. And that's ultimately what we want. We want our children to be a reflection of us and our community and the growth and development that we're going through.
Another beautiful thing in the learning pod is that you can also make it as a small business, and this is what we teach. So one parent or educator or anyone else who want to take over the learning pod can do it as a small business. And then the third module, we teach people about structures, agreements, understanding, forms, different things that can have this operations run smoothly, especially if you want to create it as a small business, as a little mini school, so to speak. And the fourth module is how to attract people, how to market your learning pod, and how to create your marketing material, or you can get help, but what to put in your marketing material so you can have more like-minded, heart-centered people that can be part of your learning pod.
So all this structure, creating a learning pod is fine, but we really have to go back to the basics, because a lot of people feel like, well, I'm going to do this all by myself, and sure, I know exactly what I need to do, but I don't know if I have the time, and maybe the inspiration of having community isn't there for somebody yet. So actually, when this all started, one of the first things that I felt was important during the pandemic was that we get together in person and share food and share community.
Community is our immunity.
Mhm. And so, what we've been doing since the inception of this concept was holding learning podlucks. So, a play on words, we call them learning podlucks, which I always find funny when we have a sign on a door that says podluck. I wonder what people walking by are thinking about it. Yeah. So basically, with the podluck, it's an opportunity for us to share our intentions together and really digest the prayers of what we're calling in. It's setting action with our inspiration. And other aspects that we found too is when we're going into visionary states where we're creating something that's really from the heart, we also have grief that we're needing to break through. So part of what we've been doing in these learning podlucks is helping our families through the grief processing of coming through feeling like a victim into being empowered and creating a vision.
It's interesting because our first intention was to speak about our course, but we realized that people want to actually speak about the trauma that they went through in the past 5 years, and they wanted to be heard. They wanted to be seen. They wanted their feelings to be validated. And this is really important when we come together as a community to know how to do that, to know how to hold space for ourselves and each other and honor that and give it time. So we kind of dropped our idea of talking about our course, and we're doing a lot of self-empowerment and spiritual work with people. So Michael leads cacao ceremony, and we do some grieving ceremonies and all kind of exercises to just let out some energy that have those obstacles in our way, to get empowered, to know that we can do whatever we want, to know that as families, we are the authority over our children, and we can enjoy being in with our children. And I find it crazy that we give birth to our babies, and some countries, after 3 or 6 months, we give them to a daycare to raise the baby. To me, it's insane. And I'm sorry, it's just one person's opinion, but we're kind of moving back. We want to move back to community and values of family and really honor our children that need us as parents. They do need us, not just for drop off in the morning to school, pick up at night, rush to dinner, and press repeat. We really want to get to know, who are you? What are you about? How can we support you? And learning pods enable that.
And in that process, we're learning to get to know our close community. So these learning podlucks are an opportunity for us to practice what we would bring to our children with each other. So we run our learning podlucks like the way that you would create a container for a learning pod. And from that experience, we've created an ebook where people can really dive deep into what it takes in order to create safety for emotions, for experiences, for dialogue, for communication when there's conflict, to be able to be in harmony with each other. And that ebook that we created is called Community-Based Education: Successful Strategies for Learning Pod Leaders. And it has elements of compassionate communication, some people know as NVC, and elements of setting space, intention, and having clarity within our groups.
Right. So before we go through our short slideshow that we prepared for you, just to sum up, so the New Earth Network is a decentralized movement to start a parallel education system where families, educators, whoever wants to work with children is empowered to start a mini school and be in charge and have the freedom and the fun and the joy to create learning experiences for the children in the community. So let's start with our slideshow, please. Did we forget something? All right, let's move to the next one. Yeah, so our vision and mission. All right, so this is a slide that speaks to our course. And again, it's by donation. And I think it's probably applicable all over. It's not just for Canada. You can really take it and implement it wherever you are. let's move to the next one. So here is a bit of a feedback for one of the participants that was in our first recorded course.
This is a flyer for our Learning Podluck where we've invited people to come join us. And every single Learning Podluck that we do is totally different because we follow our intuition with what the community needs. Or even when we come to the Learning Podluck, really just talking with people and getting to know what the needs are and adjusting our trajectory to suit the people who are there.
True. We hold it once a month and we have between 15 to sometimes 30 people. And we have people that come again and again and again. It's not that they don't know what a learning pod is, but they want to be part of a community. And to be part of a community, it needs a commitment. So they get to know each other and then they meet again and then they're deepening the connection. And connection is really what sparks our love and responsibility and accountability for each other. One more thing about the podluck is that we do emphasize that we want to focus on solutions. So we encourage people that come to ask us questions, practical questions with respect to where they are with their children and their learning experiences.
Next slide, please.
I don't have my glasses.
You can go to the next slide.
Yeah. Let's move on. I think we have some pictures. Yes.
These are some pictures from the learning pods that Gila has been running, and the cutout from our ebook.
So in Vancouver, we're pretty blessed, and we have a lot of nature, like literally all over. We have beautiful parks. We have the seawall. We have a forest in the city. We have the ocean. So part of my educational philosophy is get the kids out to the fresh air. Let's have children that know how to name plants and fruits and vegetables instead of celebrities and video games, right? Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Back to nature. And the last one.
That's us. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Hope you learned something new. All right. We don't need no indoctrination. We don't need no thought control. No dark sarcasm in the classroom. Bureaucrats leave our kids alone. Start learning pods. Yeah. Get empowered. Enjoy your children.
Thank you.
Make some more noise for Gila and Michael. Really powerful stuff. So hopefully the theme of today, building parallel networks, parallel systems, is becoming more clear. As I said earlier, every speaker is going to approach that in a different way. They focused on education. We're going to have folks talk. I'm going to be talking about building a parallel community later. We're going to hear about parallel media, talking about independent media in just a bit. And we're also going to be talking about parallel alternative financial economic systems. Excuse me as I get this ready for our next speaker here. And I do want to remind everybody who is at home, we do appreciate you guys tuning in. I just checked the numbers. There's more than 15 countries that have been tuned in across the world, which is really cool. Very humbling experience. And we invite all of you to tune in all day today, all day tomorrow, all day Sunday. That's 5 days for free for you. And if you can support us, please go to thegreaterreset.org/donate. If everybody who's watching from the comfort of their home donated $25, we would be above and beyond what we need to keep doing this event. And I want to make it clear, we are coming back for 2026. There's going to be another People's Reset for sure. So there might be some minor adjustments and things we make because this is an evolving project, and we're always trying to do what we can to make it the best for you guys. But 100% we will be back. So let me just get this final video ready for our next speaker. And then I will mention again, we do have another networking session this evening. Who was at the Eco Village networking last night? Anybody attend that? Yeah, quite a few people. Did you guys enjoy that? Yes, awesome. Hopefully you made some new connections. On that, we will be distributing and sending out that list of people who are sharing their projects and their goals and ideas. We will get that out to you guys very soon. Okay, think we're ready to go here. And as I said, we are talking now about financial systems. And this one's actually unique because I don't even know if we can specifically call it a currency. You're going to hear more about it from Reg in just a moment. But has anybody heard about Tumin around Mexico? Awesome. Some people are familiar with it. So this will be maybe a deeper dive from Reg. And I just want to say that this gentleman, I feel like, is a kindred brother because, and I keep meeting friends like this who were from different parts of the world, but they're just as passionate as I feel like I am. They're just as focused on solutions. They love, bringing people together and doing good things. And Miriam and I met Reg here last year, him and his crew. He does independent media here in Mexico, and they showed up here just so excited to find the event. They were interviewing everybody, and just the more we got to know each other, it was like, Reg, you need to come on stage and share what you have to offer. So please welcome Reg Lynham to the stage to talk about Tumin.
¿Qué tal? Buenos días a todos. Bueno, para mí es un honor estar aquí en esta gran conferencia a nivel internacional y un honor representar a mi país con este tema de la moneda Tumin. Quisiera un poquito hacer una introducción de mi persona y de mis actividades, un poquito para que conozcan cómo fue el rumbo que tomé para llegar a esto del Tumin. Entonces, bueno, ya estamos, creo que es aquí. Listo. Ok, bueno, yo soy activista de la Ciudad de México. He estado teniendo acción en la cuestión del último encierro que tuvimos hace 4 años. Y bueno, pues soy administrador de un grupo llamado Mexicanos Vida y Libertad, donde hicimos ciertas actividades como marchas, brigadas de volanteo, entrega de documentos, ¿no?, a dependencias del gobierno. Y bueno, pues también aquí es un honor tener a compañeros del movimiento. Un aplauso, por favor. Muchas gracias. Ok, next. Ok. Bueno, yo soy músico, tengo 20 años, principalmente soy bajista, pero ahora traigo un proyecto que es sobre música de protesta, música contestataria. Es un tributo al despertar, un tributo a bandas de conciencia a nivel internacional de habla hispana, ¿no? Entonces, a raíz de la música también comencé a tener este despertar. Y actualmente soy también coordinador del comité organizador de un festival que se llama Rock por la Libertad, Rock for Freedom, que ahorita actualmente lo hemos hecho en 5 ediciones en la Ciudad de México, y obviamente pues están invitados todos los panelistas también de este foro. Si gustan participar también, con mucho gusto estamos abiertos a cualquier tema de los que se hayan manejado en esta convención. Y es un festival donde fomentamos principalmente la música de los géneros rock y metal, y invitamos a bandas de protesta que también van de la mano con nosotros, así como también tenemos nuestro mercado alternativo donde ya recibimos Tumin, por supuesto, ¿no? Y también en las entradas ya estamos promocionando la entrada para socios que paguen en un porcentaje en Tumin y otro en pesos. Bueno, una de las cosas que mencionó Derek es, bueno, yo soy creador de contenidos, tengo un canal en Telegram que se llama Los Detractores, y el año pasado tuvimos una cobertura general de todo The Great Reset, y bueno, hemos hecho entrevistas a gente como Javier Villamor, que es un geopolítico muy reconocido en España, Miklos Lukács, sobre todo de habla hispana, ¿no? Y pues también tuvimos la fortuna el año pasado de entrevistar a John también, a Rebeca, también estuvieron aquí, nos hicieron el honor de aceptar la entrevista. Soy un poquito curioso, también ando investigando de manera independiente un tema que me llama mucho la atención, sobre todo esto que a lo mejor muchos han escuchado, Tartaria. También este tema de la optogenética, ando ahí curioseando, ando investigando qué onda con esto de, si ustedes vieron en todo el mundo empezaron a soltar unas luces azules ahí medio macabras. Bueno, pues también tenemos información, con mucho gusto más adelante, nada más es una pequeña reseña. Y lo que acaban de decir los compañeros, ¿no? Yo no creo en los condicionamientos, ni en el adoctrinamiento, ni en el principio de autoridad. soy libre pensador, como muchos de los que están aquí, ¿no? Gracias, gracias. Tengo un respaldo de varios colectivos y ciudadanos que han luchado por la libertad, mencionando otros, los compañeros de Uniendo Caminos México, que también son activistas muy buenos, que se dedican más al tema legal. También está Ecologenia México, Primer Batallón por la Libertad en el Mundial. Stop Bombs, también un movimiento que surgió muy fuerte desde España. Y bueno, por mencionar algunos, también otros músicos, colegas que también son de protesta. Y bueno, una de lo que vengo a hablarles ahorita, pues obviamente soy impulsor de economías solidarias y pues ahorita vengo principalmente de representación de mi región, que es el Tumin Tenochca, y también hemos hecho investigaciones y acercamientos con otras monedas en la Ciudad de México, como el Mixuca, la G1, que bueno, ya también la G1 está agarrando fuerza, esa viene de Francia, Gavitones, que es otra moneda de e-commerce mexicano, y otra variación del Tumin que se llama Tuminana. Y bueno, pues este es el tema que les traigo, el Tumin, que es moneda autónoma comunitaria. Antes de venir aquí, ¿alguien ya sabía del Tumin? Alce la mano. Ok. Bueno, les aviso que a nivel internacional sí tenemos socios en Bolivia, en Costa Rica, en Canadá, en Reino Unido y en Estados Unidos. Y obviamente aquí pues la fuerza más concentrada es en México. Y vamos a utilizar el material didáctico de la Comisión de Educación de Papantla, Veracruz, que es la región Totonacapan del Tumin. Es un material muy sencillo para que se pueda captar el mensaje más esencial de la moneda. Se llaman los tuminsajes y con esto vamos a comenzar, ¿no? El Tumin nació el 6 de noviembre de 2010 en el municipio de Espinal, Veracruz. ¿Por qué surge el Tumin? El Tumin surge debido a la escasez de dinero, el producto rezagado y sobre todo ayuda a la comunidad. Se pensó para que fuera sencillo, por eso estos tuminsajes y sobre todo el hecho de poderlo usar es muy simple. Un tumin es equivalente a un peso. ¿A qué divisa se equipara internacionalmente? Vale igual que cualquier moneda del mundo, o sea, un tumin, un dólar, un tumin, un euro y así. También se paga se puede pagar con tumins las horas de trabajo, 60 minutos, 60 tumins, un minuto, un tumin. ¿Qué denominaciones existen? Principalmente cuando inició todo esto, era denominación de 1, 5, 10 y 20. Ahorita ya tenemos una nueva región donde ya hay denominación del 50 y de 100, que ahorita les diré cuál es. ¿Se pueden cambiar los diseños? Por supuesto que sí, lo determina cada región y cada coordinación, pueden hacer los diseños que quieran. Mediante una asamblea se decide, obviamente, ese cambio de diseño de los tumins. ¿Cómo se conforma un tumin? Bueno, es muy similar a los billetes de otras monedas. Obviamente tiene lo que es su denominación, el nombre tumin, el nombre de la región, el nombre de la denominación puede ser en lengua de pueblos originarios, los coordinadores que llevaron a cabo la elaboración de ese tumin. Debe de tener también un sello identificativo atrás de color rojo preferentemente, donde diga Tumin, en dado caso Totonacapan o Tumin Tenochca, dependiendo de la región, y un sello de relieve, el cual al tacto sabemos que lo elaboró una de las regiones o coordinadores de una de las regiones. Tenemos lo que es la primera impresión que se hizo del Tumin, fue financiada por la Universidad de Veracruzana Intercultural en septiembre del 2010. ¿Qué significa la palabra Tumin? Que es un tema que preguntan. Significa dinero en totonaca. Y bueno, aquí vienen otras variantes de cómo se maneja este nombre, Tumin. En náhuatl se maneja en el estado de Morelos, Estado de México. También se maneja Tumin en huasteco, que es San Luis Potosí, Tamaulipas. Domi, ¿no? Varía un poco como se menciona. Esto es en la parte de Otomí, en lo que es el estado de Hidalgo. Tumin en Huichol, que es Jalisco, Nayarit, y así sucesivamente varias regiones, ¿no?, del país. En Michoacán, aquí se dice Tumina, ¿no?, en lengua purépecha. Muy bien. Ahorita, para reforzar esto que les vengo diciendo, vamos a aventar primer video, first video, please. ¿Dónde está? Ok. A ver, creo que ahí está ya. Este video es del 2018 y habla sobre pues, toda la cuestión del Tumin desde la región de Totonacapan, en Papantla, Veracruz, donde está el Consejo Nacional del Tumin.
La moneda comunitaria Tumin se puede considerar como parte de la economía solidaria, un gran movimiento a nivel nacional, donde la gente trata de diseñar nuevas alternativas para solucionar sus necesidades, una nueva economía. La moneda comunitaria es un modo. Sin embargo, no es tan fácil, hay muchos retos. Entonces, un poco el reto de la economía solidaria, de las monedas como el Tumin, es quitarle poder al dinero, desempoderarlo, y que sea un instrumento para nuestro servicio, para facilitar el comercio, para el flujo de mercancías, para la satisfacción de necesidades. La economía alternativa o solidaria pues no es para hacer negocio, es para satisfacer lo que necesitamos. Entonces, en ese sentido, pues es un reto. Es un reto cambiar esa perspectiva, esa manera de ver las cosas. Y para eso también es necesario que nos veamos como compañeros y no como clientes. Por eso nos decimos, cuando entras al Tumin, dejas de ser cliente y te conviertes en compañero. Ya no lo estás viendo con un signo de pesos en la frente, sino que lo ves como un compañero al que hay que apoyar, no al que hay que sacarle todo el dinero que se pueda. Entonces eso te mete en otra dinámica. En noviembre cumplimos 8 años, porque recuerden que Tumin nació en el 2010, el 6 de noviembre de 2010. Iniciamos en aquel entonces con 70 socios. Poco a poco se ha ido extendiendo y ahorita ya somos más de 1,700 distribuidos en 20 estados. En algunos habrá poquitos, en otros habrá más de 200 socios. Bueno, la manera como lo hemos estado haciendo es formar regiones autónomas donde tienen Tumin propio, con una organización propia, con financiamiento ciudadano de ellos mismos, y ellos atienden sus propias regiones. Por eso ahora existe Tumin Chiapas, Tumin Náhuatl, está por surgir el Tumin Zapoteco en Oaxaca. Pues ya nosotros desde Totonacapan no tenemos que ir a atender de esas regiones, ya ellos van. Los de Morelos han ido a atender en Guerrero, los de Chiapas han ido hasta Yucatán y han inscrito nuevos productores, ¿verdad? Los de Oaxaca, pues todo lo que es ese estado tan grande. Entonces, de esa manera sí se puede seguir, digamos, expandiendo a un ritmo natural, porque realmente el Tumin no hace promoción, sino que tiene una política de puertas abiertas para el que quiera llegar, bienvenido. Pues el reto del Tumin es principalmente, desde mi punto de vista, es ideológico. Es de influir en la cultura ciudadana en un sentido de ayuda mutua, de cooperación, de confianza, de ser honestos. Entonces el Tumin lo que quiere hacer es eso, formar un medio que es como un oasis dentro de la economía actual, donde ahí las cosas son distintas, donde puedes confiar en los otros y donde la gente se da cuenta que lo importante no es tanto el Tumin o el dinero, sino la persona. es otra polémica que tenemos nosotros, donde la persona vale más que el dinero y el productor también vale más que el producto por lo mismo. Y eso genera confusión y polémica porque de repente hay tendencias a valorar más los productos porque son orgánicos o porque lo que sea y queda a segundo plano la persona. ¿Verdad? Entonces aquí no es así. Aquí los productores vendan lo que vendan, son más importantes que el producto. Entonces es una discusión que se puede ir enriqueciendo.
Thank you. Ok, vámonos a lo esencial. Este video, repito, fue del 2018, ahí decía 1,700 socios. Ahorita actualmente ya somos el doble, 3,300 a nivel nacional. La pregunta básica, ¿cómo puedo ser socio? ¿No? ¿Qué requiero? Lo único que necesitas es vender un producto u ofrecer un servicio. No necesitas mostrar identificación, no hay contratos, únicamente vale tu palabra y eso es porque esto se basa en confianza y solidaridad. ¿Cuántos Tumins recibo por primera vez? Se le entregan a cada nuevo socio 500 Tumins de 2 a 3 tandas, ¿no? O sea, 100 primero, tal vez 150 y si se ve que el socio está circulando la moneda, se procede a complementarle lo que le haga falta. ¿Tiene costo? No, no tiene costo, es gratuito para todos los interesados. El socio tumista, sí, al momento de darse de alto o inscribirse, se le pide que se comprometa a recibir el 10%, por lo menos en Tumins, en el costo de su producto o servicio. ¿Quién fue el primer socio registrado? Fue un señor llamado Don Fili, carpintero de oficio, en el 6 de noviembre de 2010, cuando surge la moneda. ¿Dónde puedo encontrar más socios? Bueno, pues obviamente en las redes sociales, en Telegram, moneda Tumin, o bien se pueden acercar a mí y con mucho gusto les doy indicaciones para encontrar a más socios aquí a nivel nacional y por ahí también en los otros países donde también hay socios. ¿Cómo identifico un socio tumista? Muy bien, pues ustedes pudieron ver acá afuera el stand con nuestros letreros, acepto Tumin, ¿no? Y pues los productos y obviamente se avisan los mercados alternativos para que asistan y empiecen a circular la moneda. ¿Qué porcentaje se recibe en Tumin? Bueno, puedo aceptar hasta el 100%. En Papantla hay compañeros socios que rentan mesas y lo aceptan al 100%. Hay un hostal en Tecolutla, Veracruz, que también está aceptando 100% en hospedaje. Ya depende de cada socio, pero el mínimo es 10%. Muy bien. Voy a proceder a la cuestión de las regiones, ¿no? Las diversas monedas del Tumin de cada región son válidas en todo el país. O sea, si yo tengo mi moneda de Tumin Tenochca de la Ciudad de México, me la reciben sin problema los socios de otras regiones como Totonacapan, Tolteca y así sucesivamente. Para formar una región autónoma se necesitan por lo menos 50 socios inscritos y organizados. ¿Qué regiones hay actualmente? Bueno, pues tenemos la región autónoma de Nahuatl, que es Morelos, Totonacapan, Papantla, la Huasteca, Tolteca, que es Hidalgo, Oaxaca, Chiapas, y bueno, la más reciente, que es la de la Ciudad de México, la tan esperada región de Ciudad de México, la región Tenochca. Para elaborar los Tumins, cada región autónoma financia e imprime sus propias monedas Tumin. La más reciente región, que es la séptima región, Tumin Tenochca, y bueno, pues obviamente cada región hace sus logos, utiliza sus redes sociales, es autónoma, basándose en el reglamento nacional, respetándolo. De ahí en fuera ya podemos crear nosotros logos y nuestros propios diseños. Esta es la primera región donde ya se utiliza denominación de 50 y 100, y esto es, bueno, pues es la región que yo represento, pues obviamente también represento a nivel nacional todo el Tumin. Ahora, las casas Tumin vendrían siendo como puntos de reunión, en este caso vendrían siendo como los bancos del banco del Tumin, ¿no? Donde se fomenta la cultura, hay reuniones, asambleas, talleres de lectura, propuestas, compraventa, ahí es donde también las coordinaciones o comisiones se reúnen para ir dándole avance a las propuestas de los socios. En efecto, existen coordinaciones y comisiones. El primer consejo que se hizo se llevó a cabo en enero del 2011. ¿Quién es el que manda? Todos son líderes. Aquí no hay jefes, solamente hay acuerdos, organización. Cada uno es libre de participar como pueda. ¿Dónde puedo usar Tumin? Bueno, pues hay que checar el directorio de dónde puedo ir circulando la moneda. Hay restaurantes, hoteles, lavanderías, tortillerías, de todo. También hay oficios, carpinteros, albañiles, sobre todo más en la cuestión de interior de la República. También hay músicos, doctores, maestros. Productos, pues hay variados, ¿no? Ahorita les voy a pasar lo que es el video de la Feria Nacional del Tumin, pero hay artesanías, cafés, orgánicos, también hay gente que aún sigue teniendo pues venta de productos industrializados, hay de todo. El Tumin es para satisfacer necesidades. Cualquier persona que lo presente puede utilizarlo y pagarlo, aunque no sea socio, ¿no? Es válido al portador. En el Tumin todos son libres. Cada usuario es libre de comprar y vender lo que quiera. ¿Qué respalda el Tumin? Esa es otra de las preguntas que me han hecho en estos días. El respaldo del Tumin es el producto y servicio que ofrecen los socios tumistas. Y bueno, vamos al siguiente video para que no me ganen las prisas. Este es el video número 2, por favor. 2023 en Papantla, Veracruz, del Tumin.
¿Qué es el Tumin? Tumin significa dinero en idioma tutunacú y en otras lenguas originarias de México y América Latina. Es un pequeño billete tipo papel moneda, equivale 1 a 1 con el peso mexicano y con cualquier moneda. En denominaciones de 1 tumin, 5 tumin, 10 tumin y 20 tumin, es de uso universal, válido por el portador y por quien lo quiera recibir en cualquier momento.
¿Para qué surgió el Tumin? El Tumin se creó en 2010 en la UBI, Universidad Veracruzana Intercultural, para facilitar el intercambio de productos y servicios y fomentar la economía local. Esto debido a la falta de dinero y ante la invasión de grandes tiendas transnacionales.
¿Cómo funciona? Se acepta al menos un 10% de Tumin en el pago de los productos y servicios que ofrecen los tumistas. Se puede dar de cambio, pero no se vende solo como si fuera un producto. No hay obligaciones ni castigos, sino compromisos libres y ayuda mutua. Funciona porque los socios se comprometen a hacerlo funcionar.
Beneficios. 1. Con Tumin tienes más dinero. 2. Como consumidores tenemos precios más accesibles. 3. Un tumista buscará comprarle a otro y así hay más ventas. 4. El dinero no se va a supertiendas. 5. Aprendemos a confiar y solidarizarnos entre compañeros. 6. Estamos unidos y organizados. ¿Te preocupa en nuevo orden mundial? Asegura tu futuro con Tumin.
¿Quiénes participan? En el 2023 hay cerca de 3.000 productores y comerciantes distribuidos en 21 estados del país. No hay distinciones ni discriminaciones de ningún tipo. Basta vender algo y estar dispuestos a recibir Tumin, Un equipo coordinador rotativo cada 2 años administra la distribución de esta moneda comunitaria.
¿Qué puedes comprar? Cualquier cosa entre los socios, desde artesanías y alimentos orgánicos, hasta servicios y productos industrializados. Promovemos la producción y el consumo en beneficio de la salud y la ecología, pero cada quien es responsable y libre de lo que consume o produce. Nadie te vigila.
Donde lo usan, donde lo acepten, sobre todo con los socios del Tumin, y donde veas un letrero, aceptamos Tumin. O en algunas ferias de economía solidaria, 7 regiones autónomas tienen Tumin propio, válido en todas esas regiones, no importa de qué año sea o si está maltratado. Si recibes uno falso, se te cambia por uno bueno.
¿Cómo participar? Si vendes algo, puedes hacerte socio y recibir sin costo 500 Tumin. No necesitas entregar ningún documento. Es tu palabra lo que vale. Si no eres socio, pide Tumin de cambio o devuelto, que luego te lo aceptarán ahí mismo o donde leas aceptamos Tumin. Así, apoyamos a los productores mexicanos.
Uy, 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 ay, 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 los versos de la camaya.
Muchas gracias. Gracias. Muy bien, pues los videos son para reforzar, junto con los mensajes, toda la información. Vámonos al tema del mercado. El mercado alternativo. Bueno, aquí es un tema muy importante. No se excluye a nadie, como decíamos ahí, a ninguna persona. No hay discriminación, ¿no? Todas son necesarias. Nadie necesita del Tumin tanto como el Tumin necesita a todas, ¿no? Que ese es un tema que también se ha platicado a nivel nacional. Vámonos rapidísimo por acá. Ok. El Tumin resta poder al sistema económico que favorece a las corporaciones. Ese es un tema. El Tumin es resistencia, claro. El Tumin no se devalúa, con el Tumin no se especula. El Tumin es su valor y punto. Circula principalmente con socios y conserva su valor, como dicen, no se oxida, no es moneda metal. Aunque pasen los años, vale igual. Una de las cosas, diálogo sí, debate no. Sin penalización de ningún tipo, ¿no? Y vámonos aquí con lo del mercado. ¿Cómo es el mercado alternativo del Tumin? El Tumin alternativo es comunitario y cooperativo. Todos somos líderes, todos coordinamos, todos participamos, no hay portavoces, no hay... Todos podemos ir y hacer una conferencia, cualquier socio lo puede hacer y van a tener el apoyo de los demás socios. Esto es también otro tema muy importante. El Tianguis Tumin no tiene intereses ocultos, ¿ok? Independientes del gobierno y de instituciones religiosas. El Tumin le pertenece a los socios. También puedes pedir cambio en Tumin. Si tú ves a una persona que acepta Tumin, puedes pedir cambio en Tumin. Ya el socio dependerá cuánto te quiera dar para que te lleves una muestra de la moneda. Los socios también pueden ofrecer cambio en Tumin, también es de manera voluntaria. Si aún no te escribes, si no eres socio y quieres Tumin, compra un tumista y pide cambio en Tumin. Ok, entonces vámonos aquí. Ayuda a vincular a tu comunidad. El Tumin le da vida a la economía de colonias y barrios. Ayer estábamos hablando de eso, ¿no? Para eso es el Tumin. No hay obligaciones ni penalizaciones, solo compromisos libremente asumidos. La falta no trae consecuencia, salvo el demérito de la palabra propia. El Tumin debe entusiasmarnos. Si es una carga, no sirve. Ícono de la economía comunitaria, es un referente ya nacional, el Tumin. Está en boca de todos en muchos estados, mucha gente lo conoce, ¿no? Se han hecho estudios, tesis universitarias sobre el Tumin también. ¿Dónde más puedo documentarme? Tenemos el libro donde viene a profundidad experiencias y todo desde su creación. Ahorita por el momento versión en español, lo traemos. Y bueno, aquí pues un plus para todos ustedes. Pedí especialmente para el reinicio de la gente la versión en inglés del ABC, exclusivo para este evento, así que pues si gustan adquirirlo, lo tenemos allá, acá afuera en el stand, ¿no? ¿Dónde puedo ver videos de la moneda? Pues estamos, ya está presente solamente en las más populacheras, YouTube, ¿no? Y ahorita les voy a mostrar un video de una chica que hizo un video al respecto en una plataforma. Nuestras redes sociales, Linktree, diagonal moneda Tumin, y Linktree, diagonal Tumin Tenochca, que es la región a la cual yo pertenezco. Y algún día vamos a llegar a que todos podamos recibir 100% en Tumin. Quiero dedicarle esta presentación a todos mis compañeros a nivel nacional. Esta foto es de la Asamblea Nacional que fue hace 2 años en San Cristóbal de las Casas. Aquí están varios representantes de varias regiones. Y quiero dedicarle esta conferencia a mi hermano Fernando Herrera, un activista que estuvo con nosotros en Mexicanos Vida y Libertad, que desafortunadamente, bueno, el año pasado partió de este mundo. Y los dejo con estas 2 frases. La libertad se ejerce, nunca es negociable. Es nuestro eslogan de Rock por la Libertad. Y una frase que me marcó, que no permitamos que suceda lo que quieran estas criaturas de oscuridad. Todo depende de nosotros, George Orwell. Así que vámonos con... ¿Se podrá videos o...? Ok, suficiente. Bueno, gracias.
Gracias a Reg. Make some noise for Reg. Great work, brother. Great work. All right. Yes. And I actually have my Tumin right here. And we're hoping to get more vendors here, all of our vendors, not only accepting things like Monero and some of the private cryptocurrencies, but getting Tumin to be a part of our marketplace here as well. So Reg is helping us with that. All right, I'm going to pass it on to John for our next speaker. You guys are going to really love this presentation.
All right, give it up for Tumin. How cool is that? There's a huge emphasis on cryptocurrency and Monero, and a lot of people push back and say, what if the internet goes down or the power goes out? And that is a great objection, and that's why we encourage a multitude of approaches, like with permaculture, polyculture, right? So you got physical currency, barter, crypto, all things that are good. So today's all about agorism and parallel networks, and there's this challenge when it comes to parallel networks and agorism. And a lot of it has to do with us trying to build the new earth and build these new systems that are beyond government control and the legacy institutions. But oftentimes there's a bit of a gap, of a hurdle. For example, let's say somebody wanted to pull some money together and purchase a piece of land, or somebody needed to interact with the legacy banking system in order to accept credit cards, right? When it comes to agorism, if there's an approach to do it that it's challenging to scale and to have a larger system, a larger institution, a larger organization or business, because if we're doing it all under the table and we're only using cryptocurrency, then perhaps it's going to be a little bit more challenging to accumulate larger resources and deploy those resources in furtherance of God's plan for us, right? And so being aware of agorism and doing agorist tactics for quite some time, I saw that challenge, that gap. Well, our next presenter has been helping to empower people to bridge that gap between the old systems, banks, for example, and the new way of doing things. And he's going to teach us about the difference between the public realm, man-made law, and God's law or divine law. And my lovely wife, Rebecca, and I, we are students of his. We're part of his membership. We recently launched a 508c1a ministry of nature called Freedom Family Fellowship. We have a non-statutory trust that stewards resources, a couple private membership associations, and we were actually able to open a bank account without any legal entity or documentation at all. And the banker was like, well, can we see the certificate of formation? And we're like, there isn't one. It's an unincorporated church. We've been able to receive money. We've been able to deploy resources and do it all completely outside the system and legally, lawfully tax exempt. It's all about aligning with your divine purpose. And Bradley is somebody that's helping people to do that and empowering them to take God's plan for them to the next level. So give a big round of applause to Bradley Logan of Prosperous Legacy Advisors.
Thank you, brother. Okay, so Prosperous Legacy Advisors is the birth child of what was prior a law firm. So I was a real estate attorney, estate planning attorney, and I started this organization when I started to realize the nature of what a law license does, all licenses actually. We'll get into that a little bit here in just a moment. How about that? Is that better? Okay, beautiful. And if you could start the slideshow, I'm gonna, my team, by the way, if you're part of the PLA team, we got Randall here, Charlene, August Rose, and we've got a table in the back. So I know we're not gonna get through all the stuff here today, but you can come visit us at in that table in the back corner over here, and we'll be able to go deeper into the things I'll share about here if you're interested, right? But let me give you just a quick background about me and how I came into create PLA and understand this work. So next slide, please. So I started off as a licensed real estate attorney. This is my old avatar in the Matrix. I was deep in the Matrix, right? This came about when they started with the COVID, and they said that barbershops were not an essential service and you couldn't get your hair cut. So I've just been letting mine grow since then. But just to give you some context, right? I'm not doing this to brag in any way because I don't even actually take these accreditations as meaningful. They actually limit your knowledge and your ability to talk about the things you think you're becoming an expert in when you get licensed, right? So let's just take an obvious, well, I'm gonna get into that a little bit more in the presentation, so I'm not gonna do that now, but I've had a construction license, a banker's license, a state bar license, electrical contractor's license. I was a member of the Naturopathic Physicians Association in Arizona, where we helped regulate the naturopathic license boards. So, and I share all this just to say that I understand the license game extremely well. Like I couldn't build you a house. I mean, I'm not a contractor who actually knows how to build. I just know how to work the license because that's just a program. It's a way to allow you an opportunity to play inside the matrix. And what I'm going to share about is that the matrix is a trap. It's a slave system that enslaves God's children into a program. And I know there's been lots of beautiful presentations on that already here. And I'm assuming most of the people in this room already have a deep understanding of that. So I'm not going to go into that in great detail, but we're going to talk about it a little bit more in the next slide. So go ahead to the next slide, please. This is like who I am now, or what I've come to be is someone who represents God's law and not man-made law. Because God's law is about love. It's about freedom. Man-made law is about a matrix system of being numb and dumb and abdicating your power to other people who are licensed to play the game. And then you ask them for instructions and they can only tell you how to play in that realm. And they can't even talk about these things. Like for instance, well, again, it's coming. I'm not gonna get ahead of myself. So go to the next slide, please. Okay, so what I am gonna share as a context for this conversation is the jurisdiction that, and what this means, right? So we're all operating in some type of jurisdiction, meaning you're operating underneath a governing authority, right? And so most of us are born and our parents, just because they're already in that program, they just tell us, hey, this is the system you got to play in. And it's probably your jurisdiction of your country and then you break that down to your county, and then to your city or your province or your state or whatever the case is. And we all think, oh, we got to comply with these rules. But obviously, that's become nonsense, very apparent since this COVID plan scam-demic thing, right? Like before that, it's still been, it's just been the way that the world has been working. I say it goes back to the first story told in the Bible, right? Like Pharaoh was ruling over God's children. Moses wanted to take people out of this slave system, right? They're being enslaved to work for the government. And the people were so comfortable in that situation working for the government, they didn't even want to leave. Moses had to talk them into leaving their slavery system to look for the promised land. And they rejected it. For 40 years, they're wandering around in the desert when all they had to do is submit, change their authority that they were serving, not man, not the government, not the man-made rule system, but serve God. And then heaven on earth is here now when we're submitting to the Creator and not to the man-made system that stacked all these laws on top of God's laws. Sorry about that. And so, can you still hear me? So the jurisdiction is the governing authority, and when you break that root word down into the etymology, right? Diction is the language, and again, in the scripture, in the Bible, when I say scriptures, by the way, there's all kinds of holy books that have all kinds of divine truth in them. I've studied many of them, but the one I refer to the most, because I've studied it the most, is the Bible. And so, again, I'm not hung up. I mean, if all of you have a different perception of who the Creator is and how you connect with the Spirit of God, that's not of concern to me. That's your business. But what I'm talking about here is these divine truths, right? The permaculture principles, the way the world really works. You plant the seed, you water it, and this is the same thing in the spiritual realm, that's in the physical realm. But all of that is told in all the scriptures, all the sacred writings, same story told different ways. And so this is the energy that I'm speaking to when I'm talking about divine law and divine jurisdiction. It's the Creator's universe, the way that the rules work there. And so one of the divine laws is that your words create our reality. And there's three ways that you can use these words to create your reality. One is you can speak them. Two, you can write them. Those are agreements, right? Contracts, as they call them in the Matrix. And then the third one is your self-talk, what you say to yourself, what's going on inside of you. By the way, that's the most important, right? And many of us have this self-talk that we would never speak out loud to somebody else, and we don't realize the world that that's creating for us and how that's keeping us enslaved in a system. And so what we do in PLA is we start to unlock these things. And the first thing we do is we have people write agreements. That would be like your private membership agreement, right? That you're going to now conduct your, what you might call in the Matrix, business. But under God's law, there's no business. It's not about making profit for oneself. It's about sharing your gifts with the children of God, right? With your community. And when you're doing those things, it's not a business. But so many of us are giving our God-given gifts to our community through a channel that was told to us by our licensed professional. And they're saying, well, that's a business. You got to make that a business. You got to register that to conduct commerce in your community. And that's all nonsense. That's not, and I think most of us know this in the room, but I'm just sharing these fundamental foundations because it's so important to anchor that in so that when you start down the journey of leaving the Matrix, you stop the slave system of, paying taxes and stewarding the resources that you're receiving from the Creator and putting those into a program that's supporting phony wars and causes on the other side of the world that you know nothing about and you don't know the truth of the thing, or injections into kids' arms that's poisoning them, right? Like these are the mandates from our government. That's what tax dollars go to. So when you wake up to that reality, how people can continue to support that system out of fear of getting in trouble in some capacity is something that we take very seriously at PLA. And we want to help people be empowered to realize that that's not something that you have to do. That's a voluntary system. Even those that are running that system say that The tax system in all the countries is voluntary, and then they use fear and force and programming to make you think that it's something that you have to do, right? How many of us heard the phrase, death and taxes? These are the two things that are true for sure. Neither one of those are real, right? We're infinite beings. We don't die. Our spirit lives on forever. And taxes, I mean, just think about how they took those words, they put them together, and they created this whole paradigm. And so waking up from that, there are solutions and ways of existing in this world where you feel empowered, you stand in your power, and you know what you're doing that doesn't include having to give your money and the resources that you're stewarding to nefarious organizations. All right, let's go to the next slide. And so the jurisdiction that you're all under, if you haven't made that decision for yourself right now, by the way, I would ask you to claim that right now. If this, what I'm saying, if what you're hearing right now is resonating inside of you, I would ask that you start by saying, hey, I'm not under that man-made jurisdiction any longer. I know I might still have some agreements. You know, if you got a driver's license, if you have a professional license, if you have any kind of license or any type of registration with your government or your municipality, that's when we gave our jurisdiction to them to govern over you. And so you can make that verbal declaration right now, okay, I may have done that, but I did it out of duress or ignorance or unknowingly, and just boom, set an agreement inside of yourself that I'm not going to operate in that space anymore. I'm going to operate as a free individual under my God-given rights, under God's declaration for you to receive the abundance that is available for you as the children of God. And so I encourage you. And I was supposed to do this in the beginning because this is how we start all of our PLA conversations, even as a team and with our members. We take a minute and we drop into our hearts, out of our mind and into our hearts. And I got up here and got going so fast I forgot to do that. So let's just do that right now. Let's just take 60 seconds. And if this is resonating for you to give up that slavery identity and be a free child of God in a new jurisdiction under God's laws, which are two, basically, love God and love your neighbor as yourself, right? All the other laws are summed up there. And when you do that, you're free to do whatever you want. And so let's just breathe together, drop from our head to our heart, and feel into this energy before we continue this talk. And let's take a collective breath of the Holy Spirit. So blow all the air out, release all the air out of your lungs. And then all of us together, breathing in the living Spirit of God. Holding it at the top, feeling that light energy, that lift from the Spirit of air, which is the living, breathing force that keeps us going in this 3D dimensional world. And when you exhale, letting go of all the things that no longer serve you, letting go of that slavery mentality, that fear-based thinking, the lack thinking, and realizing you are an abundant child of God. So thank you for that little reset. Okay. All right. So let me help. The slides were a tool for my team to make sure that I stay on track. I typically just come up and let the Spirit flow through me. I pray before I come up here that my ego is at bay, that the only thing coming through me is the Spirit of God and the wisdom and discernment that comes from the Creator. So that's what I'm asking for to be present now. And then these are my guiding marks. All right. So we talked a little bit about this, the man-made law, right? Like all of the programs. And I'm going to just use an obvious one, right? The medical license, right? The medical license requires doctors to lie to their patients. They can't talk to them about the truth, right? You go to a doctor to talk to them about being healed or finding your healing for cancer, and they can't talk to you about some of the God-given plants that are available for this. That's because they're not patented, right? So that brings us to another license. So patents, trademarks, insurance, all licensed industries, all licensed to run a program that limits your ability for your consciousness to exceed to the level of connecting with spirit in the way that it was intended, right? Pharmaceuticals, as we all know, that numbs us down, that keeps us from that spiritual connection, right? And so not tending to the plants that are available, the ones that are outlawed, plants that are outlawed in this country because they bypass pharmaceuticals. You can't patent it, and it brings healing much quicker than their gimmicks that come through the chemical and patenting process of, and not only pharmaceuticals, but let's take the FDA. Here's another licensed or registered registration industry, and the FDA limits our ability to get access to clean, good food, right? Like there's a berry I learned about when I moved down to Costa Rica called the miracle berry. Anybody heard of the miracle berry in the permaculture community, right? It's an amazing plant. It tastes amazing. It's a cure for cancer. It's outlawed in the United States. It makes no sense, right? And this is what the FDA, this is what they do, is they keep us from natural modalities that allow us to ascend to this spiritual connection with our Creator. And this is the program. This is why the elite do these things, right? This is why they make us spray poison on our crops, on our food, on the soil. This is why the soil is dying in the world, right? It's not regenerative. This is why Bill Gates and group are trying to sequester all the land so that they can keep us from growing food the way that we're trying to grow food in the permaculture industry with natural ingredients. We don't need their chemicals. We don't need all the stuff that Monsanto and all the people that are spraying poison on the food so that it looks good and can sit on the shelf for 15 years in the grocery stores is ludicrous, right? And there's so many people that realize this, but it's like, well, what do we do? What do we do? And I get, again, in this community, a lot of times I'm giving this talk and people don't have the knowledge and understanding that we do here, which by the way, lifts my spirit so high to be in a group of conscious people that all get this, and the resonance of being together with you all, it just feels so good, so good. So thank you all. Keep doing the work. Keep understanding and digging into this stuff and educating yourself. Stop abdicating your power by hiring licensed professionals who are forbidden to tell you about the things I'm telling you about now, right? So by the way, going back to my license, the bar license, right? Just so you all know, I gave that up. Like I was licensed attorney for 35 years, never had a complaint on my bar license or ethical violation or anything like that. And I can no longer, in good consciousness, keep paying dues to an association that's enslaving and trapping people in that slave system. So I just I stopped paying the dues. They let me ride for 2 years without the dues. So I just kind of kept the license. And I've also taken these organizations that we're talking about, the private trust organization and a private PMA and a 508 organization, and I've gone into the court system to validate that they're real, like not for myself, but representing client members that are that we've worked with, to validate that the system has to acknowledge these organizations if they go into their jurisdiction. But what I teach people is you don't want to go into their jurisdiction. You don't want to go into court. You don't want to test these things in the court. And by the way, that's why there's not a whole lot of precedent for the naysayers who say this stuff isn't real and you can't really, receive millions of dollars into these private organizations without getting in trouble. That's just not true. And we got evidence of people. I think there's people in this room. I know there's people in this that are at this event that I've consulted with and worked with, and we are receiving millions of dollars of fiat money, and it's not being taxed, it's not being reported, and that's not why we do this, by the way. That's just a strategic byproduct of standing in your power as a child of God. You don't need to report to a system that's corrupt and killing God's children. It makes no sense that you do that. And so the only thing standing in the way of people doing that is their own fear, and it's the programming. And that's what PLA is about. So PLA takes conceptual ideas like a trust, for instance. Let's go to the next slide. I think I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I know we got, let me stop right here. 2 basic tenets of the law of love. So this is the premise of God's laws. This is the summary. All right, and I already mentioned it once. But when you're coming from this place, just drop into your heart for a minute, maybe close your eyes and think about this for a minute. Whatever it is that you do to sustain yourself, I'm just going to make an assumption, and if I'm wrong, just bypass it, that it's your gift, that you've been empowered by the Holy Spirit or by God, the creator, source, whatever you want to call that power outside of you that created everything you're sitting in, this whole holographic experience that we're in this dense 3D body, but knowing that our spirit is an eternal, ongoing creation, right? Whatever it is that you're trying to do, if it's farming, if it's a health modality, a healing modality, if it's through touch, if it's through a service like bookkeeping, right, or matchmaking, whatever that service is that you think is a business, and you're wondering how what I'm talking about applies to you, take a reframe inside your system for a minute and just think, if this is my God-given gift and all I'm trying to do is share it with my neighbors or my community, that's a spiritual endeavor, is it not? And if it's a spiritual endeavor, it doesn't need to be classified as a business. It doesn't need to be classified or operated through a LLC, a corporation, or these dark entities that the matrix system has us create so they can tax, track, extract, and monitor everything that you do, right? So when you get that what you're doing is really your God-given gift, and you just change your language, this is part of your jurisdiction, you just took yourself out of the man-made matrix jurisdiction and put yourself in a holy jurisdiction under divine law. And so now you don't need to feel fearful that you're receiving abundance for serving the children of God, right? And this is how we model. This is how PLA models. So we're a private membership association, and we're established to share this wisdom of God's protection over your endeavors. And so it used to be operated as a law firm. Back when I was just learning about this stuff, I didn't know. So I was an LLC, and I was selling legal services, and people were my clients, and no longer, right? So now people are members of the association where we're all peers working together to understand and talk about how we do what we do under God's law. That's a private membership association, right? And from the way that we distinguish it at PLA. And so like the Tumin thing that they were talking about before this, they were talking about having members of Tumin, right? Like, I don't know, I don't think it's a formal PLA, a private membership association, but that's the same thing, just different nuances, right? And people wonder, well, does this work in my country? All these things are based on US law, and they're not based on US law. That's just, I speak English as my main language. I'm learning Spanish. And so, but we operate down in Costa Rica. I've been down in Costa Rica with my daughter, and Randall on my team live down there. Charlene's coming down to visit soon, but she lives in Sedona, Arizona, which is where I used to live before I moved to Costa Rica. And we've got people here I got a member here from Germany. I've got members in Chile. We've got members in Canada. So divine law doesn't apply. It doesn't listen to the man-made jurisdictions, which is all the countries and states and counties. All that is just arbitrary lines that men drew on a map so that they could fight over territory, right? But as a divine steward, you rise above those jurisdictions, because I'm a steward of the earth wherever I go, right? And so are you. You're stewarding the energy around you wherever you go, whatever room you enter into. There's some stewardship of your energy in that space and the people that you're meeting with. And then, of course, through this global expansion, because of the internet, we can connect with people on channels across the electronic devices until that goes down. And your community can be worldwide, such as ours is. So again, this energy, this whole thing that we're talking about, if don't think that it doesn't apply to you in your country, because it applies everywhere. And then there's little nuances that we use in how we interact with the local government. When you need to take your divine organization, your light entity, your light organization, and I distinguish it. Well, let's keep going to the next slide for me, please. I've got this little visual I'm going to pull up, and I'm running close on time. So pop forward for me probably 2 or 3 slides, if you would. Doing well while doing good. This is the whole concept I'm talking about. Your service, what you're given, your God-given gift, is a service to your brothers and your sisters. It's not a business. That's the concept, doing well while doing good. So anything that you're doing, and if you're curious about what I'm saying, we're gonna have a breakout session tomorrow on Sunday at 5:15. This is where you can ask those questions. I don't have time to take questions here, but you can say, okay, well, this is what I do. Can you tell me how this fits? And we'll get into more of that at that breakout session. Next slide, please. Okay, keep going. Next slide. Yeah, so this is the model of the Trinity. I'm going to touch on this real briefly. In the breakout session, we'll go into it in more depth. But the white triangle block is what I'm going to refer to as the light entities, which lays over the top of what I used to do as a lawyer, set up statutory trusts, corporations or LLCs for people to do their business, or 501c3s if you had a philanthropic, not-for-profit type of business, right? Now, all those organizations are registered with your government, right? And if you're in another state, this was based in the US, but if you're in another state, there's some version of this, another country, there's some version of that in your country. And so what we do now, so that people can wrap their mind around standing under divine law, because the reality is, all you got to do is claim it and then act it out. You don't need these agreements. I tell people this all the time. This is like the instruction manual for how to start standing in your power. So all we've done is packaged it up in a way that people can be empowered and get rid of the fear by understanding that they could operate just like you probably are doing now in the Matrix if you're using an LLC or a corporation. And we create these divine agreements, we call them private agreements, private organizations that can interface just like the statutory trust. And when I say statutory means that it's man-made law. It's a statute, and it gets its authority by a state that empowers the trust, so that if you have a dispute, you got to go into court to get it resolved. The goal of what we're doing is the first thing we do when you say you want to be a member of PLA is we say, hey, we're not going to sue each other. If we have a conflict, we're going to resolve it like two human beings, right? Like a brother and a sister. Not like go hire the chess player, the attorney who's licensed up, who makes it controversial and conflict right out of the box and tells you got an hour. It tells you that you have a year and a half to get this thing worked out before it's going to settle. Because we know all conflicts, 99% of conflicts settle outside of court. But you have to use an attorney. If you're an LLC or corporation, you can't represent yourself. You have to hire an attorney if you're in the statutory world. In our world, with a 508c1a organization, which is like a 501c3, except by the code, it doesn't have to register. It's not taxed. It doesn't have to report tax, none of that stuff. You can operate the same way as a 501c3. A PMA operates the same way as an LLC or a corporation. And we give you the documentation that you can use to go in and open up a bank account without the registrations and all that stuff. And then the trust stewards assets or holds title to property, right? Not ownership. We'll get into that more in the breakout because I'm running out of time and I don't have time to do it here. But what we do is we help people not say that they're an owner of your house. Let's say your spiritual essence, your body is living in a home. That's a sanctuary. Your church and your trust can steward that outside of the matrix without registration, and you show up as just a person representing it. So it can't be taken away from you, right? So it starts to point to all the strategies that become available that you don't get from your licensed professional on business strategy and limiting liability. We don't talk about that. We talk about abundance and how to step into your power and how to receive more without it being looked at or registered with the government. And so this is just a taste of what divine law is all about and how you step into that power. And what we do is we create a annual membership for people that are interested in this type of thing, because giving you the documents doesn't do anything. It's teaching you how to learn, how to use them, and how to use them in what you're up to, and creating your villages and your communities and stewarding your projects. And so we do that through an annual membership. And so What we've got here, if you want to flip to the next slide, please. Again, if people are interested in this and they want to go deeper and you went out of the matrix, here's a few practical steps that you if you sign up with Prosperous Legacy Advisors, you can do that at the back table. We'll start to feed this education to you, and then also tell you about some next steps that you can do to go deeper into this process. One of which would be to sign up for a divine discovery call. Flip forward a couple steps, slides for me, please. I'm out of time, so I'm just going to jump to it. But here's, if you want to take a snapshot of that with your phone, this will get you connected. It'll allow you to come to our website, sign up to become a member of PLA. That's the first step, because then we're outside of the public domain and we're talking as private members with one another, and we'll reveal things that I wouldn't necessarily say. If somebody wanted to say I was practicing law and I could get myself in trouble, you just sign an agreement with me first and you say, no, we realize that you're not going to lie to us, and which is what a law license is, right? That's a license to lie in a public format, which is crazy, right? But so you disavow that, and I say, yeah, we're not going to get in any type of dispute like that. And then we start unlocking these teachings and reminding people how to stand in their power under God's law. And so I think I'm out of time. Am I out of time? I got 1 minute left. Okay, so join us tomorrow. On Sunday at 5:15. And normally I have a divine discovery call with people that have projects. If they want to go deeper in this whole thing, we ask for a minimum donation of $250 to book a Zoom call with me today or one of the members of our team. And today, if you're here, this is available only for the people at this event. We're going to offer up that divine discovery call for $111. And you can register through that link there, or you can come back to the table and get booked for that only through our event. That's only going to be available through 5:15 on Sunday. So make sure you take advantage of that if you want. And again, come visit us at the table if you want to understand more about this and how it applies to you. Thank you for your time, and I thank all of you for your. Thank you. Say again? No. Yeah, I'm just going to limit it for the people that are live here. Yeah, because it's a pretty special discount. I mean, anyway, I guarantee you the people that spend an hour looking into this will find a tremendous value in what's presented. So, okay.
Thank you, Bradley. Make some noise for Bradley, everybody.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot to. So what we're going to do for all the people who sign up for that between now and Sunday, we're also going to do a raffle for that Trinity membership that we talked about. So somebody's going to win that at the event here, and we'll announce that at our workshop on Sunday.
Wonderful. Thank you, Bradley.
Thank you, brother.
You guys enjoy that? You guys enjoying this morning? Powerful information. All right. We've talked about parallel alternative education systems, education models. We talked about the Tumin, alternatives to our mainstream financial system. Bradley's talking about alternatives to the way we form our businesses, the way we run our lives, really powerful stuff. And we're about to get to our next presenter before we go to lunch, who's going to talk about alternatives to the corporate media, and he's got a lot of experience. But I want to mention a couple things. First off, the next speaker, Ruben, is in Spanish, so if you need to make your way to get your headsets, please do that. I also want to show you guys this. Have you seen this amazing patch that our volunteer Echo made? It has the principles from our movement. Let's see if we can show that on camera right there. The principles are individual liberty, freedom of choice, bodily autonomy, interdependence, and mutual aid. It's very much what we believe in here. And so she made these just for this event. They're over there on my table if you're interested. She is selling them. So you could hang this on your wall, or for those of you who are creative and want to sew it onto a jacket or a shirt, you can do that. A couple other things. I want to mention that You may notice that in the usual green space, there's a bunch of chairs and they're setting up. They're having a concert there tonight, so that will not be available to us. All of the workshops that are happening during lunch and in the evening are going to be in the green space on this side. So when you walk out, everything that says green space on the schedule is going to be over there. And also, we're going to be doing a community picture. We've done this the last couple of years, and I want to invite everybody who's here to come to go to your lunch. And then at 1:40, we're going to gather right here in front of the stage around our beautiful altar and get as many of us packed in here as possible and take an awesome picture so we can make everybody at home jealous that they're not here in person. But make some noise for the folks at home. We do appreciate you guys being here. I know I keep saying it, but if you were here in person, you would be having even more fun. We're getting your emails. We're getting your messages. We're so grateful you are watching. But I promise you, all these lovely people here are waiting to hear the gifts that you have to offer, to hear about your projects and your ideas. So we hope that in 2026, everybody at home will be here in person. And thank you. And we're hoping to do another event in the UK as well. And we've got invites to do events in Portugal, Germany, even Australia. We'll see what happens, but we want to take this movement as far and wide as possible, and that's what this is about, building international bridges. So, all right. So again, this final talk before lunch is going to be in Spanish if you need to get headsets. This is going to be a really powerful talk. I'm so grateful to have met Ruben. He is an independent journalist here in Mexico. He's got a really well-known YouTube channel where he just reports on the truth like many of us care about, but he also has a background coming from mainstream corporate media. He even worked for the Los Angeles Times at one point. He's got a lot of stories to share, and today he's going to tell us all about his journey from dealing with the corporate media garbage to going completely independent. Please make a big welcome, big warm applause for Ruben Lenguas, our stage.
Thank you so much. So certainly it's going to be in Spanish. It's going to be in Spanish because I don't feel confidence giving the whole speech in English. But I want to start with something before saying hi to everyone who is here, because we are here for any reason, for some reason. I do believe that. And I ask if you know the song Coincidir. Yeah? And many people, they don't know the song Coincidir. Many people, yes. I'm going to say in Spanish the letter of the song, and I have a translator, right? Who is really very nice, by the way. Soy vecino. I'm talking in this one. Soy vecino de este mundo por un rato. Everybody got it? Soy vecino de este mundo por un rato. Y hoy coincide que también tú estás aquí. Coincidencias tan extrañas de la vida, tantos siglos, tantos mundos, tanto espacio y coincidir. I love this song. I really love this song and has a great meaning for me. I was just thinking about, before starting the coming here, I was just thinking about this coincidence. Even people that, I don't know who are you, you don't know who are me, but we are here in this coincidence, en esta coincidencia, que me hace estar muy feliz porque, voy a decirlo, yo soy así muy abierto en mi vida. Le hablé a Derek. Oh, I'm going to put it here. Don't worry, because, so that one or this one? I called him, sorry, man, I have to cancel because I was alone in my house in the middle of the night. I went downstairs and there was pipí of one of my 4 pets. There was pipí y me resbalé, me caí, me di un golpe tremendo. Ando con ese dolor. Subí la escalera no porque esté tan viejo, sino porque ando con el dolor, pero dije, no, tengo que ir. Y estoy muy contento y creo, además, que siendo la mayoría de las personas que están aquí, creo que no hablan español o muchos son de otras partes de países de habla inglesa, creo que es muy útil que yo les platique un poco mi decepción total de los medios de destrucción masiva a nivel mundial. Pero sin duda en un momento muy, muy importante que fue cuando la official conspiracy theories of 9/11, and I was just there in a Spanish television, facing a very hard situation, facing a very hard situation about what I was taught for my parents, by my parents, my spiritual convictions, and the idea of telling the truth to the audience. So when I was invited first to go to Los Angeles, I decided to go because I didn't like, and I don't like, the way immigrants, so-called illegals, are treated in the United States. I don't like that. Even if I understand that there's everything. I mean, there are many kind of people, and among immigrants also there are different kind of peoples, but I'm going to explain this situation. So I was invited, and I said, yes, because of these guys. I'm going to try to share other contents, other ideas about gusto estético, el gusto estético. No es solamente la verdad o la mentira, sino el gusto estético que se diseña para decirle a ciertas personas, a ti te tiene que gustar esto. Y en la comunidad, ya está ocurriendo aquí en México también, pero en las comunidades inmigrantes, los narcocorridos, la narcocracia, todo aquello, yo digo, pero ¿por qué? ¿Por qué tienen que estarle metiendo a esta gente todo ese tipo de basura en su mente? Alguna vez hice un reportaje, I made a story in the, what's the name of this, in California, where el valle este donde nació el escritor de el Valle de Salinas. En el Valle de Salinas, en California, es considerado como la ensaladera de los Estados Unidos. Proporciona vegetales, alimentos, no solamente para California, sino para el resto de Estados Unidos. Entonces fui a hacer un reportaje, y ustedes saben que a los indocumentados también les llaman wetback. Yo no vi wetback. Bueno, las vi wet por el sudor, pero las vi dobladas. ¿Cómo se dice? ¿Dobladas? Bueno, ya está la traducción. Las vi dobladas. Horas trabajando en subcontratación, porque las empresas que los contratan directamente no se hacen responsables, tenían subcontratación, ¿no? Y los seguí desde muy temprano en la mañana hasta cuando regresan a sus casas. Y regresan a sus casas y a reproducir su fuerza de trabajo y a prender la televisión. Prenden la televisión y ven, porque ellos no hablaban inglés, y ven Univisión, Telemundo y tal vez algunos otros canales. ¿Sí? Los que no hablan español, ¿me están entendiendo bien en la traducción? ¿Sí? Ok. Entonces yo dije, no puede ser. Son neoesclavos. Y en lugar de latigazos, instead of latigazos, es, oh, be careful, you are illegal. I need your work a lot. We need it. As the sheriff of Arizona told me, that guy Arpaio, I interviewed him, and I was he's on YouTube, and I was asking very hard questions to Joe Arpaio. Oh, yes, because he was in Mexico. He was in charge of DEA in Mexico, para perseguir a los narcotraficantes, cuando la DEA, y no dudo que haya, porque siempre hay infiltrados por ahí. Si me están grabando, les mando un saludo, señores de la CIA y de la DEA, administran el narcotráfico para su beneficio. I can imagine that maybe most of you know about Gary Webb. He wrote a book, Dark Alliance. He used to write for the San Jose Mercury News. At the beginning, he was a big star. Everybody was interviewed because él demostró cómo la CIA organizó el drogar a los negros, a los latinos en las zonas pobres de Los Ángeles para financiar el escándalo Irán-Contras, ¿sí? Pero de repente todos empezaron a voltear, lo señalaron, lo acusaron y terminó suicidado. Gary Webb. There's a movie, but more than the movie, I really recommend the book Dark Alliance. Very important book. So, how to be working for news shows in Mexico or in the United States or wherever, and having information that you cannot give to the audience. You cannot give to the audience on mass media. And when I arrived there, suddenly 9/11 and my working visa arrived, and I arrived to Los Angeles, and all the situation of 9/11, and I start to connect the dots, and I start to get information from many people, very interesting people, and realize that it was a false, the official conspiracy theory. So, media supposed to be I don't understand. I am like, who was the president of what country? Because I don't understand my own letter. Well, media need to serve as a fire bell in the night. And always, in different moments of life, in the history of the world, there's light, but there's night. And we are supposed to give light with real news, real information, real investigation in those areas of darkness. And in my opinion, we are living right now, maybe, paradójicamente, una de las etapas más oscuras tal vez de la humanidad, y donde la coincidencia de quienes estamos aquí, convocados por Derek, va más allá de una coincidencia. Le atribuyen a Gandhi decir, el cambio que quieres ver en el mundo, hazlo en ti. Y yo creo que los que estamos aquí queremos cambiar nosotros, informarnos nosotros y formarnos nosotros para buscar dar un poquito de sal y de luz, de sabor y de luz a un mundo donde hay una tremenda soledad de mucha gente, donde hay niños drogados con Ritalin y con no sé cuántas cosas desde pequeños, donde hay gente verdaderamente atrapada en el infierno de las drogas, como lo vi allá en Tarzana, y jóvenes de todo tipo en unos verdaderos infiernos para ellos, para sus padres, y donde no me quiero ver conservador, pero donde hay una situación donde nos dicen conservadores de ultraderecha a quienes nos oponemos a ciertas agendas que incluso no eran de lo que entendíamos como izquierda. Yo ahora creo que izquierda y derecha son tentáculos del mismo pulpo y le están comiendo el cerebro a la gente. Me lo dijo una vez Gore Vidal, el escritor Gore Vidal, que lo entrevisté en Hollywood, en su casa. Me dice, Rubén, no te confundas. En Estados Unidos no hay más que un partido político con dos alas. Y las dos alas son derechas, me dijo él. Bueno, entonces ahí donde tenemos que arrojar luz, ser ese firewall in the night, que dicho sea de paso, no quiero entrar en teorías de la conspiración con los incendios de Los Ángeles, pero hay muchas cosas extrañas. Y yo ya no estoy trabajando en Los Ángeles, pero entonces sí trabajaba allá. Entonces, creo que esta palabra en inglés se dice winning the public of a factual issues. Separar, me consta, el valor que tiene de lo que les estoy diciendo es que me consta metido en las entrañas de estos medios de comunicación donde lo que quieren es separar a la audiencia, al público, de los hechos. Entonces es el contrasentido del periodismo. Sin un periodismo verdadero, auténtico, genuino, no puede haber democracia. Es un mito la democracia. Y es más, yo creo que no hay tal democracia en ningún país del mundo, llámese Cuba, llámese Estados Unidos, llámese lo que quieran. No hay el poder del pueblo por el pueblo y para el pueblo, sino que lo que hay... This book is wonderful. Está en español, de Eudes, La colonización de las conciencias. Nos han colonizado las conciencias y el espíritu, pero también el gusto estético. Ahorita les platico algo ahí. Las centrales USA de exportación cultural. Las centrales USA de exportación cultural. Y no me malentiendan, no soy antiestadounidense como siempre me han querido calificar, todo lo contrario. Estoy en la línea de Howard Zinn, A People's History of the United States. Estoy en esa línea, pero sí estoy consciente de que no es nada más la mentira, separar a la gente de los hechos reales, sino es colonizarlo por dentro. Sus conciencias y el gusto estético. En este sentido, hay un concepto aquí, sería depolitization, la despolitización of politics. Despolitizar la política, desculturizar la cultura, volver a las personas como en la pandemia, buscarlas separadas, individuales, llenas de miedo, aterrorizadas por un pinche bicho que no sé ni siquiera si existe o no existió o qué hicieron, pero era increíble. Gracias. Entonces, les cuento de esto porque no, por favor, Derek, you let me know when I have to stop because when I have to shut up. Once I was in LA and Rolando Villazón. Who knows who is Rolando Villazón here? 1, 2, 3, 4. That's great. Rolando Villazón es uno de los mejores tenores del mundo y es mexicano. Él compró un disco de Plácido Domingo y John Denver porque él iba a ser sacerdote. Compró el libro de Plácido Domingo, John Denver, y dijo, quiero ser cantante. Y cambió y se metió a ser cantante. Es una de las mejores voces actualmente del mundo de la ópera. Y de repente noto en LA Times, the voice to watch. And I went back to the station with my news director. Hey, Al Corral. He didn't speak Spanish, but he was the news director in Spanish. Al Corral is coming Rolando Villazón. Who? Rolando Villazón with Anna Netrebko. You know, Anna Netrebko, this Russian woman, beautiful singer and beautiful like a woman. It's very pretty. So they are coming to LA. I want to have an interview with them. Are you crazy? We are on ratings. The sweeps. Le digo, let me give me the chance to do this story. And I thought about, okay, cómo persuadir, to persuade? persuadir a mi audiencia con el bombardeo de narcocorridos, con una ópera, Romeo y Julieta, en el Dorothy Chandler Pavilion de Los Ángeles, donde van, pues, desde luego, muchos judíos, gente de mucha élite. ¿Cómo invitarlos ahí, no? Entonces hice un reportaje al estilo de una soap opera, de una telenovela, y conté cuando Anna Netrebko entró a cantar en lugar de una cantante que había faltado. Conté de Rolando Villazón lo de Plácido Domingo. Conté que Rolando Villazón cada vez que iba a cantar tenía que consultar a su psicólogo. E hice toda una, ¿no? Y luego acababa de morir Consuelito Velázquez. ¿Saben quién era Consuelito Velázquez? ¿No? La autora, la compositora mexicana de Bésame, bésame mucho, ¿no? Entonces, Rolando Villazón ask Anna Netrebko, do you know Consuelito Velázquez? No, and he starts singing the song. Bésame, bésame. So it was fantastic story. The story is there in internet. And suddenly the news director told me, okay, you are right. But the only time, okay? Única vez que haces una historia de esto, no más. And let's see how the ratings are running for the next days. So, le pusimos mucha publicidad, fantástico, y entonces pasa el reportaje en sweeps, cuando se están midiendo los ratings para el dinero. Y someone told me next day, the news director is calling you. I'm going there. So, how's it? And took some papers, arrojó los ratings, dice, there you have the fucking ratings. And I said, oh my goodness. I said, no, I'm teasing you. I cannot believe it. We doubled the ratings. So next weekend, when I went to the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, just like someone who loves opera, I like it a lot. I cry when people from El Salvador, Guatemala, Mexico saw me there, and they were like venaditos lampareados, asustados, y me vieron, señor Luengas, nunca en mi vida había venido a una ópera. Muchas gracias, porque además fue una puesta en escena fantástica. Fue una puesta en escena erótica del Romeo y Julieta, muy bien puesta. Lloré cuando la gente, porque ¿qué estoy demostrando? La censura y el interés de los medios de comunicación no es nada más por dinero, no es nada más por los ratings, mentira. Quieren tener como esta educación de la que ya hablaron. ¿Saben de este hombre Taylor Cato en los Estados Unidos? Que tiene un libro sobre, fue el mejor maestro del año y tal. Él hace un rastreo de la educación prusiana, cómo llega a los Estados Unidos esa educación prusiana y cómo la exportan, no como el pedagogo brasileño Paulo Freire, que habla de la educación como práctica de la libertad, donde él dice la educación no es meter, la educación es sacar y no meterte un currículum para aplastar tus inquietudes. Y suddenly teachers that have teaching disability, and they said, your son has learning disability. No, es que han estandarizado la educación y todo eso se está reforzando con los medios de distracción masiva, de destrucción masiva, para crear soldaditos para el sistema, para el establishment. Yo ahora mismo, I'm sorry for what I am going to say, but if you are thinking that maybe Trump is going to be the helper and savior, no. Trump es el presidente de anti-establishment del establishment. Es el presidente anti-establishment del establishment. Y podremos discutir, pelearnos y todo, pero esos quieren tener un dominio, un control total de tu espíritu, de tu mente, de tu cuerpo, qué lees, qué escuchas, cuál es la música que quieres escuchar. Hay música ahora que, no sé, yo no entiendo por qué quieren ver la música clásica como algo del pasado. O aquí en México que tuvimos tremendos trova yucateca, tremendos cantantes. Ahora todo el mundo está así como en una estandarización estética que para mí tiene que ver con esto y es a través de los medios de comunicación. ¿Tengo que acelerar? No, ¿están bien? Entonces, el ejemplo de ocultar el mundo, ya los dije, los medios de comunicación, en lugar de revelar el mundo, que es nuestra función, ocultan el mundo. No, they don't want us to be aware. Al contrario de eso, después del 9/11, hay un hombre que se llama John Poindexter. John Poindexter estaba al frente de una oficina de DARPA, la oficina de investigación del Pentágono, creadores de la Internet, ¿no? Y en esta oficina él decía, knowledge is power, total information awareness. Y con una pirámide y el triángulo y todos esos símbolos, y dije, ¿cómo? Como total information awareness. ¿Ven lo que acaba de presentar el señor Trump de Stargate? Stargate lo acaba de presentar y él, siendo en su etapa ahora ya de presidente electo, y vamos a hacer la inteligencia artificial para estar presente en todo, por aire, por mar, por tierra, todo, van al transhumanismo y quieren un control y es el Total Information Awareness, el pretexto de perseguir a los terroristas. Y ahora resulta que acaban de tipificar a los cárteles de la droga como terroristas. Van a dar el paso de querer en un momento dado, a ver, vamos a cambiarle al Golfo de México, Golfo de Estados Unidos, ok. Vamos a hacer de Canadá otro estado. Vamos a tomar Groenlandia. América para los americanos. América, la famosa doctrina Monroe, ¿no? A ver, ¿por dónde va? Y el expresidente mexicano, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, que nadie, nunca, jamás, ni un solo periodista le preguntó en las famosas mañaneras, en las conferencias, what do you mean by this? Because he said, we have to integrate with Canada and Mexico and the United States first, and then the whole continent, like the European Union. He said that. Ni un solo periodista le ha preguntado. Me decían, ¿y usted por qué no va? Yo tuve un infarto, estuve muy grave, me he tenido que venir recuperando, en fin, y no me daba la gana de ir a la mañanera, lo hacía desde mis plataformas. ¿Qué quiere decir toda una América, hasta la Patagonia, como la Unión Europea, cuando vemos que la Unión Europea está totalmente debilitada, está totalmente entregada a la OTAN, con unos graves problemas? ¿Qué quiere decir eso? Bueno, hay un plan desde Sniebrzinski, el asesor que fuera de Carter de Seguridad Nacional, de la Comisión Trilateral, de las Rockefeller, para la integración de un mundo en bloques. Entonces, realmente estamos pensando fuera de la caja. Entonces, yo que apoyaba el cambio en contra del neoliberalismo salvaje y que voté por estos, los he declarado agentes del nuevo orden mundial. Va López Obrador a la ONU, se reúne en el Consejo de Seguridad y dice, esto es lo que más se parece a un gobierno mundial. ¿A un gobierno mundial? Eso lo dijo el presidente mexicano. Y aquí con Jeremy Corbyn is married with a Mexican woman who is owner of a cafe in Chiapas. So they met together when he was not president, and he said, we were just talking about un nuevo orden mundial justo y fraterno. ¿Por qué los medios de comunicación no hablan de esto? ¿Por qué ni un solo periodista mexicano? Y yo, que soy más o menos conocido, he ganado el Premio Nacional de Periodismo en varias ocasiones, me han expulsado totalmente de los medios. Estoy en mi canal de YouTube, estoy en redes sociales. La última oportunidad que me dieron en un medio fue en México, en La Octava, pero cometí el grave pecado de entrevistar a personas en contra de las vacunas, invitando a un debate científico, ¿verdad? Tiraron el canal de YouTube de La Octava y otros periodistas ahorita que son muy famosos, oye, la monetización, Rubén, la monetización, ¿no? Entonces, ¿estamos como periodistas para monetizar? ¿Abrimos un canal de YouTube para monetizar? Digo, qué bueno, necesitamos. Yo ahorita de ahí estoy recibiendo en el Seguro Social. Yo me hice ciudadano de los Estados Unidos, tengo mi Social Security. Me mandaron una carta de a ver si estaba yo vivo, que querían saber porque estoy en México. La mandamos, sí la recibimos, pero no le podemos pagar ahorita Llevan más de un año que no recibo nada del Seguro Social. Voy a tener que viajar a Los Ángeles o contratar un abogado a ver qué pasó. ¿No me dan la explicación? Vaya a la embajada. No he podido ir, pero mando correos, nada. Bueno, pero en fin, esa es otra historia. Voy al tema de que sí, necesitamos comer. Decía María Félix, una actriz mexicana, decía, el dinero no es la vida, pero cómo calma los nervios. Y todos queremos estar calmados de los nervios, ¿no? Entonces, coincidimos aquí en que no estamos, porque yo me pude haber quedado callado, andar dando autógrafos, mi Mercedes-Benz, yo me estacionaba 3 lugares a un lado de Jay Leno en el Canal 4 en Los Ángeles, en NBC, porque la empresa en español para la que yo trabajaba, que no menciono porque dicen que me pueden demandar, bueno, no la menciono, pero en fin, Jay Leno llegaba con un carro distinto, diario. Y yo llegaba en mi Siena 2001, muy a gusto en mi camioneta Siena, mientras todos me decían, cómprate un carro europeo por tu imagen. Yo me salí de todo eso en los medios de comunicación, viendo la censura en México, ya para terminar, porque no quiero alargar, censura en México. Y yo cuando me invitaron a Estados Unidos dije, ¡yupi! ¿No? Me voy allá donde la libertad de expresión, no, por favor. Todas las mentiras, hasta que conocí a este hombre que fue inspector de Naciones Unidas, ¿cómo se llama? Fue inspector de Naciones Unidas, que empezó a hablar en contra de lo de la guerra de Irak y empecé a informarme, Scott Reeder. Entonces empecé a concientizar y llevé todo esto hasta demostrar que no son los ratings, porque llegamos a tener enormes ratings, no quieren que la gente se concientice. Una vez fui a un dry cleaner en Burbank, Glendale, California, y me ve alguien de atrás, de fuera, de Oaxaca. Señor Luengas, le digo, sí. Oh, y va y saca un libro. Me lo firma, le digo, no, pues no es mío, no, pero por usted lo leí. Yo entrevisté a John Perkins, el autor de Confessions of an Economic Hitman. I had an interview with him in San Francisco. So, este hombre de Oaxaca, desde la librería, compró el libro y lo leyó. Y los productores me decían, no recomiendes libros, Rubén, la gente ni lee. Es totalmente intencional que quieren a la gente sin conciencia. En la educación, no confundir educación con capacitación para ser empleados del sistema. Ganar tu buen dinero y endeudarte a pagar tu casa en 30 años, que tengas una deuda, y si eres médico, calladito. Si eres periodista, ¿cómo voy a decir aquí lo que sé? Debo una casa 30 años, debo el coche, debo todo, no tengo libertad. ¿no? Entonces mi esposa y yo hicimos una evaluación de aquello y dijimos, al diablo con esto. Y somos ciudadanos y vivimos en la ciudad de Puebla, tienen su casa cuando quieran visitar. Bueno, termino. Las noticias se han vuelto una corporate commodity. Sí, corporate commodity, pero entre los mismos medios de comunicación ya no compiten. Ya no compiten, son el nado sincronizado. El nado sincronizado donde hemos visto varios ejemplos de personas que han hecho videos donde están dando el mismo comentario en NBC, en Telemundo, en no sé qué, y en México ocurre básicamente lo mismo. Destruyen la verdad, destruyen muchísimas cosas, el gusto estético, destruyen. Yo tuve el primer noticiario cultural de la televisión mexicana en el Canal 11, en una época maravilloso. Lo veían taxistas, lo veía el escritor mexicano Octavio Paz, lo veía el escritor Carlos Fuentes, era maravilloso. En el Canal 11 de televisión. Hoy, con el Canal 11 de la izquierda que está, metieron a sus cuates, metieron a sus amigos. Me duele decirlo, pero hacía mejor televisión pública el PRI que estos de la izquierda por los que yo voté y tanto apoyé. Entonces, buscaron también que la televisión y ahora todo esto es plug-in drug, la droga que se enchufa. Primero la televisión, la droga que se enchufa, ahora todo estos enchufados a estos aparatos. Yo mismo he perdido capacidad de lectura porque estoy pendiente hasta que ya dije, no, por favor. Por ejemplo, no entiendo cómo en Twitter, X, estaba yo muy pendiente de los seguidores porque me habían aumentado y de repente me bajan así enormes. Y después dije, me importa, que no me siga nadie. Olvídate, ya no veas seguidores, porque vivimos y que los seguidores, ¿no? Ya, 2 minutos. Ok, hay muchas cosas que faltaría por decir, pero mi experiencia fue, nos mintieron con el 11 de septiembre, nos mintieron con la guerra de Irak, nos mintieron con la guerra de Afganistán. Y cito ahí porque fue una etapa crucial de mi vida, y acá igual reproducen algo porque hay acuerdos internacionales que están para... Este es el campo de batalla y este es el campo de batalla. Y este es el campo de batalla ahora con las vacunas y con lo que quiere meter este señor Trump y con este hombre, el segundo más rico del mundo, no el otro, no, Ellison, con el que presentó la cuestión esta exactamente, sí, exacto, ahí está, de oráculo. Entonces, tenemos que ver los noticiarios, olvídense de ellos, o sea, o ver nomás para ver cómo nos quieren engañar. Tenemos que crear esta alianza de medios alternativos sin egocentrismos, sin protagonismos, porque en varias cosas que yo he estado a lo largo de mi vida, incluso cristianas o religiosas, empiezan los protagonismos. Ahorita en México hay una lucha entre antivacunas, que si está el grafeno, que si no está el grafeno, y se empiezan a dividir. No, porque yo sí creo que va a ser demasiado tarde si no nos ponemos las pilas, si no hacemos algo, y yo lo estoy haciendo desde mi trinchera, tratando de poner un granito de sal, una gotita de agua, un poquito de luz desde mi espacio, para que el día que me vuelva a acercar, como ya me acerqué a la muerte, estuve muy cerca de morir según los médicos, sentí que me iba yo en paz. La verdad sentí que me iba yo en paz. Quiero irme en paz de este mundo. Muchas gracias.
Yes, mucho aplauso for Ruben. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed the morning. Everybody at home, we'll be back at 2 p.m. Central. Everyone, I just want to remind you again, come back here if you'd like to be a part of the community group picture, 140 right in front of the stage. Workshops are going to be to the right, green space. Everybody at home, we'll see you at 2 p.m. Thank you for being here.